Reaction is the true birthplace of stress, not the situation itself. Two people can face the same event, the same words, the same pressure, yet one remains calm while the other collapses internally. The difference is not strength, intelligence, or luck. The difference is awareness. The moment you react unconsciously, you hand over control of your inner world to something external. A reaction is automatic, emotional, and unexamined. It happens before thought, before choice, before presence. Stress enters precisely at that moment when awareness disappears and habit takes over. Most reactions are rooted in past conditioning. Old fears, unresolved insecurities, and stored emotions rise instantly when triggered. The mind does not see the present situation as it is. It sees it through the lens of memory. A tone of voice becomes an attack. A delay becomes disrespect. Silence becomes rejection. The body tightens, the breath shortens, the heart accelerates. Stress is already active before the person even understands what is happening. Awareness interrupts this chain. Awareness creates space between the trigger and the response. In that space, stress has no place to grow. When awareness is present, the reaction loses momentum. You notice the tightening in the chest instead of becoming it. You notice the heat of anger instead of speaking from it. You notice the urge to defend instead of obeying it. This noticing is not passive. It is an active state of inner clarity. The mind stops running automatically and starts observing. Observation weakens the emotional charge because emotions feed on unconscious identification. Once seen clearly, they begin to dissolve. Stress thrives on resistance. Resistance to discomfort, resistance to uncertainty, resistance to reality not matching expectations. Reaction is resistance in motion. Awareness is acceptance in stillness. Acceptance does not mean agreement or weakness. It means seeing what is without distortion. When awareness is strong, the mind no longer argues with reality. It adjusts, it adapts, it responds with intelligence rather than impulse. A reactive mind seeks control by force. It tries to fix, blame, attack, or escape. An aware mind seeks stability first. Stability of breath, stability of posture, stability of attention. From this stability, action becomes precise. Stress cannot survive in a stable inner environment. It needs chaos, speed, and identification to exist. Awareness slows the internal pace. It brings the attention back to the body, back to the breath, back to the present moment where imagined threats lose their power. Many believe stress comes from responsibilities, deadlines, or pressure. In reality, stress comes from the belief that you must react immediately, that you must answer now, that you must defend now, that you must solve everything instantly. Awareness breaks this illusion of urgency. It reminds you that nothing requires your emotional reaction to exist. The world continues, even if you pause. That pause restores authority over your inner state. Awareness is trained, not wished for. It is built through repetition, noticing the breath when irritation appears, noticing posture when anxiety rises, noticing thoughts without following them. Each moment of awareness weakens the habit of reaction. Over time, the gap between stimulus and response grows wider. In that gap, calmness becomes natural. Stress becomes unfamiliar. When awareness leads, reactions no longer control behavior. Emotions are felt fully, but no longer dictate action. The mind remains clear, even under pressure. Calmness becomes a baseline rather than a rare state. Stress loses its root because its source has been removed. Reaction fades. Awareness remains. The pause is the most powerful tool you possess, yet it is the most neglected. Before every reaction, there is a brief moment where choice exists. Most people ignore this moment because they are trained to respond instantly. Words come out before understanding forms. Actions are taken before clarity appears. This speed feels natural, but it is the reason control is lost. When you pause, even for a single breath, You interrupt the automatic pattern that governs behavior. Pausing does not mean hesitation or weakness. It means you refuse to be dragged by impulse. The mind wants to react because reaction is familiar. It is a shortcut created by repetition. Pause breaks that shortcut. It forces awareness to step forward. In that brief stillness, you reclaim ownership of your inner state. You are no longer a passenger being moved by emotions. You become the one holding the reins. Most conflicts escalate because there is no pause. A comment is made, the ego feels threatened, and the reaction fires immediately. Tone sharpens, words harden, and the situation grows heavier. Stress multiplies not because of the original comment, but because of the chain reaction that follows. One pause can end this chain before it begins. Silence, even for a moment, changes the entire direction of an interaction. The pause allows the body to settle first. When emotion rises, the body reacts instantly. Muscles tighten. Breath becomes shallow. The nervous system prepares for defense. If you act in this state, stress becomes embedded. Pausing gives the body time to reset. One slow breath sends a signal of safety. The heart rate lowers. The tension eases. From a calmer body, the mind regains clarity. Clarity cannot exist in urgency. Urgency creates tunnel vision. Everything feels personal. Everything feels threatening. Pausing widens perception. You begin to see the situation as it is rather than how it feels. You notice tone, context, intention. You notice your own internal state without being consumed by it. This shift changes the quality of your response completely. Many believe that pausing means losing the upper hand. In truth, pausing is how you gain it. The person who controls the pace controls the interaction. When you are calm while others are reactive, your presence becomes grounded. Your words carry weight. Your actions become deliberate. Stress cannot dominate a mind that chooses when to engage. The pause is especially powerful in moments of provocation. When someone tries to trigger you, they are seeking a reaction. Reaction gives them control. Pause removes it. When there is no immediate response, the provocation loses its force. You remain centered while the other person exhausts their energy. This is not avoidance. It is mastery. Pausing also creates distance from the ego. The ego wants to defend, explain, prove, and dominate. It thrives on immediacy. When you pause, the ego weakens. Awareness steps in. You begin to respond from values rather than emotions, from intention rather than habit, from stability rather than fear. This skill must be trained in small moments. Pausing before replying to a message. Pausing before correcting someone. Pausing before reacting to inconvenience. These small practices build inner strength. Over time, the pause becomes natural. It no longer feels forced. It becomes your default state. When the pause becomes part of you, stress has nowhere to settle. You are no longer chasing every stimulus. You are no longer pulled in every direction. You stand still while life moves around you. Control returns not because you dominate the world, but because you have mastered the space between impulse and action. Emotions are not the problem. Identification with them is. The moment you say, "I am angry," instead of "anger is present," the emotion takes control of your identity. It moves from being an experience to being who you are in that moment. Observation breaks this identification. When you observe an emotion, you step out of it without suppressing it. You allow it to exist without allowing it to command your behavior. Observation begins in the body. Every emotion first appears as a physical sensation. Tightness in the jaw, pressure in the chest, heat in the stomach, restlessness in the limbs. When awareness is trained, you notice these signals early. You do not wait until the emotion explodes into action. You feel it as energy moving through the body. By staying with the sensation, you prevent the mind from turning it into a story. The mind's habit is to label, judge, and explain emotions. Anger becomes blame. Fear becomes imagination. Sadness becomes self-pity. These mental stories intensify the emotional charge. Observation removes fuel from the fire. You feel the raw sensation without adding interpretation. Without interpretation, the emotion cannot grow. It rises, peaks, and fades on its own. Many believe that observing emotions means becoming passive. In reality, it creates precision. When you are not overwhelmed by emotion, you can choose how to act. You can set boundaries without aggression. You can speak firmly without hostility. You can remain silent without resentment. Observation gives you options. Identification removes them. Emotions demand expression when they are ignored or resisted. Suppression traps energy in the body. Expression without awareness releases it chaotically. Observation allows energy to move naturally. You neither push it away nor act it out. You let it complete its cycle. This is why observed emotions lose intensity faster than reacted ones. Fear is a powerful example. When fear arises and you identify with it, the body prepares for threat even if none exists. Thoughts accelerate. Muscles tense. Stress multiplies. When fear is observed, you notice the rapid heartbeat, the shallow breath, the alertness. You remain present with these sensations without labeling them as danger. The nervous system recalibrates. The body realizes it is safe. Fear dissolves. Anger follows the same pattern. When anger is observed, you feel heat, pressure, and energy. You do not justify it. You do not suppress it. You simply stay aware. Without justification, anger has no direction. Without suppression, it has no resistance. It burns out naturally. Observation requires honesty. You cannot observe while secretly planning a reaction. True observation is neutral. It does not judge the emotion as good or bad. It does not try to change it. It allows it to exist fully. This acceptance is what weakens emotional grip. Over time, the relationship with emotions changes. They no longer feel threatening. They become signals rather than commands. You recognize them as temporary states, not permanent truths. This creates inner stability. Situations that once caused stress begin to lose their impact. A calm mind is not emotionless. It is spacious. Emotions move through it without leaving damage. Like waves passing through the ocean, they rise and fall while the depth remains unchanged. When you master observation, you no longer fear emotions. You trust your ability to remain present no matter what arises. Calmness is often misunderstood as the absence of emotion, but true calmness is the result of discipline. Without discipline, the mind moves according to impulse, habit, and external influence. It reacts because it has never been trained to do otherwise. Calmness appears when the mind has been conditioned to remain steady under pressure. This steadiness is not accidental. It is built through consistent inner training. Suppression and discipline are not the same. Suppression is forceful. It pushes emotions down and pretends they are not there. Discipline is conscious. It acknowledges what is present and chooses not to act from it. Suppression creates tension in the body. Discipline creates stability. When emotions are suppressed, they wait for a moment to erupt. When emotions are disciplined, they pass through without leaving residue. The disciplined mind does not eliminate emotion. It organizes it. It gives emotion structure and direction. Just as physical strength requires repetition and resistance, mental calm requires daily practice. The mind must be exposed to discomfort without being allowed to escape or react. This is how resilience is formed. Each time you remain calm in a challenging situation, the mind learns a new pattern. Calmness, without discipline, is temporary. It depends on favorable conditions. Silence, comfort, approval, and control make it easy to feel calm. Discipline creates calmness even when conditions are unfavorable. Noise, criticism, pressure, and uncertainty no longer dictate the inner state. The mind remains composed because it has been trained to hold its ground. Discipline begins with the body. The body and mind are not separate. A restless body produces a restless mind. Posture, breath, and movement influence emotional stability. A disciplined posture creates alertness. A slow breath calms the nervous system. Regular physical practice teaches the body to stay relaxed under strain. This physical calm supports mental clarity. The disciplined mind also controls attention. Attention is energy. Where it goes, emotion follows. Without discipline, attention jumps constantly, feeding anxiety and agitation. With discipline, attention is directed deliberately. You choose what deserves focus and what does not. This choice protects inner peace. Not everything is allowed access to your mind. Discipline requires restraint. Restraint is not denial, it is intelligent limitation. You do not say everything you think. You do not react to every impulse. You do not chase every distraction. Each act of restraint strengthens inner authority. The mind learns that it is not in charge. Awareness is, in moments of emotional intensity, discipline shows itself as stillness. The urge to speak, move, or defend arises, but you remain steady. This stillness is active, not frozen. You are fully present, fully aware, fully grounded. From this state, your response becomes measured rather than explosive. Many avoid discipline because it feels restrictive. In reality, lack of discipline is what creates suffering. An undisciplined mind is constantly pulled in different directions. It is exhausted, overstimulated, and unstable. Discipline simplifies. It reduces unnecessary movement. It brings order to chaos. As discipline deepens, calmness becomes natural. You no longer force yourself to be calm. Calmness becomes the default state. Challenges no longer feel overwhelming. Pressure no longer creates panic. Emotional waves still arise, but they do not knock you over. This level of calmness commands respect without effort. People sense stability. Situations de-escalate in your presence. You no longer need to prove strength because it is evident in how you remain centered. Discipline holds the mind steady while the world shifts around it. Nothing has power over you by default. Power is given, not taken. The moment you react, you transfer control of your inner state to something outside yourself. Words gain weight, situations gain influence. People gain authority over your emotions. What you do not react to cannot dominate you. It may exist, it may be present, but it no longer controls your inner balance. Reaction is permission. It tells the mind that something external is important enough to disturb stability. Without that permission, external events remain neutral. They happen, but they do not penetrate. When you stop reacting, you close the door through which stress enters. The event still occurs, but its impact is limited to the surface. Many reactions are driven by the desire to protect the ego. The ego wants to be right, respected, validated, and safe. When any of these feel threatened, reaction follows automatically. Non-reaction weakens the ego because it refuses to feed it. Without constant reinforcement, the ego loses its grip. The need to defend fades. The need to explain dissolves. Non-reaction is not indifference. It is clarity. You see what is happening without emotional distortion. You understand the situation without personalizing it. When someone criticizes you, their words reveal more about their state than your worth. When circumstances create pressure, they test your stability, not your value. Non-reaction allows you to see this clearly. When people realize they cannot provoke you, their influence diminishes. Provocation relies on response. Without response, it collapses. This creates a quiet form of authority. You are not controlling others, you are controlling access to yourself. This boundary is invisible but powerful. Stress depends on engagement. It grows when you replay events, argue mentally, or imagine outcomes. Non-reaction stops this cycle early. The mind does not spiral because it is not fed. Emotional energy is conserved instead of wasted. This conservation strengthens inner resilience. Non-reaction also sharpens perception. When emotions do not cloud judgment, you notice details that others miss. You sense timing. You sense intention. You sense when to act and when to wait. This discernment comes from stillness. Movement without reaction is deliberate. There are moments when action is required. Non-reaction does not mean passivity. It means action without emotional turbulence. You may speak firmly, you may set boundaries, you may walk away. These actions are clean, not charged. They do not leave behind regret or tension. The habit of non-reaction is built gradually. It begins with small irritations, a delayed response, a careless comment, a minor inconvenience. Each time you choose not to react, you strengthen the muscle of restraint. Over time, larger challenges lose their intensity. Non-reaction creates inner freedom. You are no longer imprisoned by mood swings or external approval. Your state is determined from within. This independence is deeply stabilizing. Life becomes less dramatic, less exhausting. When you no longer react, you reclaim energy. Energy that was once spent on worry, anger, and defense becomes available for clarity, creativity, and presence. You move through life with composure. Situations unfold, but they do not consume you. The world may test you, but it no longer controls you. The breath is the most direct bridge between the body and the mind. Thoughts can be difficult to control. Emotions can feel overwhelming, but the breath is always accessible. When the breath becomes chaotic, the mind follows. When the breath becomes steady, the mind begins to settle. Mastering the breath is not a technique. It is a foundation for inner stability. Stress immediately affects breathing. It becomes shallow, fast, and irregular. This signals danger to the nervous system, even when no real threat exists. The body stays in a constant state of alertness. By consciously slowing the breath, you send the opposite signal. Safety, presence, control. The nervous system responds first, and the mind follows naturally. Breath awareness anchors attention in the present moment. Stress lives in anticipation and memory. The breath exists only now. When attention returns to breathing, mental noise decreases. Thoughts lose urgency. Emotional intensity softens. This shift happens not because you force the mind to be quiet, but because you give it something stable to rest on. A steady breath creates rhythm. Rhythm brings order. In moments of pressure, this order prevents internal collapse. Instead of being swept away by emotion, you remain grounded in sensation. The rise and fall of the breath becomes a reference point. No matter what happens externally, this rhythm remains available. Breath control does not mean holding or forcing. It means guiding. Smooth inhalation, unhurried exhalation, relaxed shoulders, soft abdomen. These physical adjustments directly influence mental state. The body learns to remain relaxed under strain. This physical calm becomes mental calm. Training the breath must happen outside of crisis. Daily practice conditions the nervous system. Slow breathing during calm moments teaches the body what stability feels like. When stress appears, the body recognizes the pattern and returns to it more easily. This is how breath becomes a tool rather than an emergency response. The exhale is especially powerful. Lengthening the exhale activates the parasympathetic system, the part responsible for relaxation. Tension drains out gradually. The mind releases its grip. Even a few controlled breaths can shift the entire internal atmosphere. Breath also creates space between stimulus and response. When a trigger appears, returning to the breath prevents immediate reaction. You feel the urge to act, but the breath keeps you grounded. This pause allows awareness to lead. Action, if needed, comes from clarity rather than impulse. Over time, breath mastery changes baseline behavior. You become slower to react, quicker to settle. Emotional spikes shorten. Recovery becomes faster. Stress no longer lingers because the body knows how to return to balance. Breath is always with you. No environment can take it away. No situation can block access to it. This makes it the most reliable anchor for a calm mind. When everything feels unstable, the breath remains constant. By mastering it, you establish inner stability that does not depend on circumstances. A calm breath creates a calm presence. Others feel it. Situations respond to it. You move with steadiness, grounded in your body, clear in your mind, anchored in the present moment. Through the breath, control returns, not by force, but by rhythm and awareness. Mastering a calm mind is not about changing the world around you, but about transforming the way you meet it. When reactions are replaced with awareness, stress loses its foundation. The pause restores control. Observation dissolves emotional identification. Discipline stabilizes the inner world. Non-reaction protects your energy. The breath anchors you in the present. Together, these are not ideas, but practices that reshape how you live each moment. A calm mind does not escape life's challenges. It moves through them with clarity and strength. When nothing outside can disturb what is steady within, you no longer search for peace, you embody it.